she walks forward and puts her hand on the glass. And then they reciprocate by doing the same. You see this massive tentacle
Oh
hit
yeah.
hit the glass next to her, and you hear those violins swell. And Amy Adams drops the line. Now that's a proper introduction.
Yep.
Amy Adams sells this moment. She is so good. Let's be honest. She's probably acting to nothing. Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak.
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
And we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel. Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Oh, yeah.
We are currently in the middle of a filmography for a director by the name of Denis Villeneuve.
Yes.
And we last left off at Sicario, so we're here at the next movie now. It was released November the 11th of 2016. Today, the Panel Bros are going to be doing a breakdown for Arrival.
What a movie. This is one of those movies that I feel like knocks the air out of you. You know what I mean? When we talk about it and we get to what the movie means, what theme it explores and whatnot. It's one of those that knocks the air out of you, man. And Denis Villeneuve, again, up to this point, not a single miss on this filmography whatsoever. So it's wild that this movie came out in 2016 because you forget that, that wasn't just last year or 2 years ago. Like that's some years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was rewatching it and I was like, man, this came out in 2016. I was like, you could have told me again. You could have told me this came out yesterday, and I buy it just because of everything about it. But man, Denis went hard with this one. As you know, I'm a huge sci-fi guy, and if you can have something sci-fi with some great emotional beats, I'm easy to hook. And this one definitely has those.
Yeah, Arrival is just such an emotional movie, and it's an intelligent movie too. And we're going to get into that. It's not just typical drama. It's not a typical science fiction movie. So
I won't lie. Every time when like the first 30 minutes of any movie that feels like this, I'm always worried that it's going to go over my head. Like I'm always like, all right, Rick, pay attention. Stick close, bro. Stick close. Cause I don't want this to go over my head. Like we're going to do what? Okay. She's going to what with the alien? Okay. All right. Let's focus. But I'm glad that I was able to keep up with this one. But yeah, it's a very, very intelligent film.
Yeah, it was it's not 100% original. It was based, well, the screenplay was written by Eric Heiserer, and it's based on the 1998 short story of Your Life by Ted Chiang. So it wasn't original, but what the writer did with it, and then what Denis came in and was able to do, just pretty remarkable stuff.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty, well, let's get started here. Share a screenshot here.
Oh, this opening. Yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah.
Oof.
Alrighty. So oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we have linguist Louise Banks. Her daughter Hannah dies at the age of 12 from an incurable illness. So let's discuss how the movie presents that to us here.
Oof.
So we have Louise, played by the great Amy Adams. She's delivering a monologue about her daughter. We see her with the baby, and then we get this montage of the daughter growing up and Louise, along the way with her. To me, one of the standout parts in there is, you hear "I love you," and then it switches immediately where the daughter says "I hate you." At some point in time, unfortunately, kids say that they hate you to your parents. Yep. We eventually find out that she gets sick, and then we see her death. And Amy Adams ends up by saying, "Come back to me." Well, she says goodbye to her by saying, "Come back to me." The scene ends with, "But now I am not so sure I believe in beginnings and endings. There are days that define your story beyond your life, like the day they arrived." A lot of foreshadowing there, but that is our opening scene.
listen, I this this was a gut punch the first time I saw it, and even watching it now recently, as a rewatch. The first few minutes, like you're getting a glimpse into Amy Adams' character's life, Louise, and you see this little girl, and she's growing, and they're happy, and they're enjoying themselves, and you see the good times and the bad times,
Right.
kind of like the life of a parent. Like you have those really amazing moments, and you have those other moments where you wish they could be better or whatnot. And then it goes extremely heavy very fast. Like you almost don't get time to catch your breath because it's happening, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, like whoa, you're like, wait, whoa, what are we doing? And before you know it, as you mentioned, she gets an incurable disease and she passes away, and I was already just emotionally just like distraught. Like this is the very beginning, and it's laying the groundwork for the rest of the movie. And obviously,
Right.
we're thinking as we're watching this film, okay, how is this event going to play into the film? Like, I remember the first time watching this being the beginning, I was like, okay, how is this death going to shape this character? Like, what are we going to do with this? And I'm not going to spoil it yet. Obviously, we'll talk about it as we go, but Denis does something very interesting with this opening that I was not expecting him to do. And it does an amazing thing for the story as a whole. But to open this heavy and this strong, man, it's a very, very rough beat.
Yeah, and these flashes to Hannah end up being a main focal point of the story. Louise and Hannah's relationship, because we flash back to it all the time throughout the movie, and just such an emotional opening to the entire movie. It's like, hey, we're going to open the movie with our main character losing her daughter.
Yeah,
That's just going to.
And like we've seen movies where we've lost characters, obviously, and children, but the way Denis frames it, again, we're getting like a highlight reel of this little girl's life. Like we're seeing her as a baby, we're seeing her born, we're seeing Louise hold her for the first time, we're seeing them grow together, play in the yard, get angry, get frustrated, go through all these moments, and then ultimately leading to death. And you're so heartbroken because you're watching a little girl who is essentially losing her life and a mother losing her daughter, and it's very, very hard stuff. And Denis just made this choice, like, this is how we're gonna open, and I can't imagine anyone seeing this and not being like hooked right away and going, okay, like if this is how we're opening, like where are we going?
Alrighty, so we move forward with Louise going to the classroom. She's a teacher, and all of a sudden the cell phones just start going off one by one.
This was scary.
Yeah.
This part was scary.
Yeah. So the cell phones start going off, and she's like, "What's happening, guys? Like, could you please turn the news on?" And then we see everything here. All the alarms are going off, and you better believe if this, well, we see all the spaceships and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and you better believe if this thing is happening, I'm not waiting for you to dismiss class. I'm getting up and going home.
Yeah,
because this is a life-altering event. And I wrote this down here. Shades of another movie Amy Adams was in, Man of Steel, when we got
yeah.
You Are Not Alone sequence.
Yep.
The entire world came to a halt because at that moment they found out that we were not alone in the universe. And the same thing happens here. And I always find it interesting how a filmmaker chooses to frame when we find out that we're not alone.
Yeah.
So.
This was it was a very, I really enjoyed this introduction to the arrival, if you will, only because like we live in a day and age, especially with technology and phones that are hip, that like we can be in the know very quickly, and it's almost too quickly at times, and we're not really sure what to do. So the idea that someone's phone goes off and Louise does the teacher, the professor thing, where she's kind of just like, hey, like, you're going to get that? Am I interrupting you? That kind of thing a teacher would, or a professor would say. And then you get another one going off and another one going off. And then all of a sudden there's this like alarming feeling. And we as the audience know something's wrong. And you have the one student ask her, like, can you put on the news? And it's like, oh man. And I feel like I feel like that's a really, really scary moment because like we know something's happening, and you and I know, who have probably had, you know, a shared experience of being in school when a traumatic event is happening, and we're all like glued to the television, and we're just kind of like, oh my God, what's happening? And you know, this was at a time where, you know, we weren't really walking around with cell phones that were like smartphones, you know what I mean? So everyone just kind of like in the dark a little bit. But at this point, everyone's got a smartphone. They can look down at their phone and see what's happening and see all the talk, all the chatter that's going on. I'm like, hey, there's a ship, there's something in the sky, we don't know what it is. I can't imagine that feeling of panic. And like you said, I'm not waiting for a dismissal. At that point, like, we're all getting up and just leaving. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, good on the people where if you're at a job where you're not essential, it's like, hey, listen, we got to go home.
Yep.
This is that we can't be here, you know. But I just thought about this. What about the people that are essential? They can't.
Yeah,
You know,
dude.
the
Oh my
doctors
God.
and the nurses and the caretakers and stuff like that, they can't be at home with their family because they
Nope.
have a priority right now. You know, the
Yeah.
entire world is changing. So, just an interesting situation altogether there.
Oh yeah.
All righty. You've seen a screenshot of the ship here. So we find out 12 extraterrestrial spacecrafts hover over various locations around the Earth. In the ensuing widespread panic, affected nations send military and scientific experts to monitor and study them. In the United States, U.S. Army Colonel Weber recruits Banks and physicist Ian Donnelly to study the craft above Montana. So it's in the middle of nowhere, Montana.
Yep.
We move forward here to them just getting briefed. You know, it's just like, okay, it's just gonna be you, Louise, it's gonna be you, and it's gonna be Ian. You guys are gonna be our two, the two people that are just gonna help us along the way. Louise, because apparently she's renowned as the best linguist
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
You know, she wrote a book and everything, and they were going to go to somebody else, but she made a joke about it and such, and for whatever reason, they went with her.
Yeah,
And
she
then,
was like, tell him to translate this. Tell him to translate this. And when he translate it, it's not 100% accurate. And then they ask her, and she says it 100% accurately. And they're like, all right, you're good to go.
yeah. So, and then Ian, he brings the science aspect of it, you know,
Yeah.
because they balance each other out. You know, they're going to be the team, so to speak, along with, you know, the rest of the military and such.
Yeah.
Once they get the suits on, you know, the ascent into the craft is it's really eerie.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, you hear the score swell as it does so many times throughout the movie. You hear these violins, and at some point in time, there's like a low gravity situation, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just the way he chose to frame the scene or if this is the way it was. You see them walking, but eventually they're upside down.
Yeah, it's such a unique shot. Like, I remember seeing this in the theater, and this is one of those movies that I think you gain a lot more from a theatrical viewing, because as you mentioned with the score swelling and whatnot, like his sound design is amazing, and you feel it. Like, you can feel the change of the atmosphere, if that makes any sense, just as a viewer when they enter the ship, and as they're going inside, like with the sound design, the score, you feel the change, and you get this weird a gravitational pull in a different direction where they can actually jump into the air, but then they'll fall forward, and the dynamic of gravity has shifted, and they're able to walk. And it's just such a well done shot. Like you said, they're upside down. We even have Louise kind of look behind her, and it's almost like being in a fun house, because she, according to everyone on the ground, looks like she's walking on the wall. Like she's perpendicular to the ground, and they're kind of all looking up, and it's very disorienting. You know what I mean? So if that was the goal, he definitely hit it, because right off the bat, I'm kind of like, whoa, like this feels weird already. We're like the characters in a situation where things are not the norm, but everything at this point, just like you said, feels very eerie, very, very, very eerie up to this point. And you know, you feel almost as nervous as the characters do. Like, you're like, all right, we're gonna walk forward. We have no idea what we're gonna see, but like, you can feel the tension.
So eventually we get to the first time seeing the beans from outer space. Um, I said this before, but this is like a Denis signature in my opinion.
Yes.
Fog, smoke, eventually sand, dust.
Yep.
Spice, excuse me.
Yeah.
And such. But he likes doing that to create some mystique in his shots here.
Mhm.
And the entities slowly become visible, the beings rather, and the team, they ask her to start.
Yeah.
And as it's about to go, we switch to the very next scene because everybody runs away.
Yeah.
And she says, "Am I fired?" And they tell her, "You're better than the last guy."
Yeah, right off the bat, like it did not go well the first time. You know what I mean? Again, and she's really, really good at her job. And I wasn't disappointed that we didn't see it yet because I knew we were going to. But it's an interesting choice to kind of be like, hey, we're not going to show you just yet. Like they're taking us along for the ride. And like you said, it just immediately cuts and they're back. She's like, "Am I fired?" He's like, "No, you're better than the last guy." And I think I'm pretty sure Ian like throws up. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure like the nerves and everything that they just experience. I can't imagine like the anxiety, the nerves, everything that they're feeling at this point, like coming face to face with what they saw and every question that they had essentially answered, but now raising more questions. Yeah, that'd be me too. I'd be in the trash can just throwing up, man.
So they take a break and they try again. And this is what ends up happening. So she walks forward with this whiteboard with the word human on it. This is the first English word or, or word that they want to teach them because they want them to know what they are. I'm a human, not knowing if they're going to be able to understand it or not. We see the canary in the cage, a trope here used by miners and such. As long as that bird's still moving, we're good. Once it stops moving, we're not good.
Yeah.
And you keep hearing it in the background there. She's still wearing the suit. Everybody's wearing the suits here. And you find out that the beings speak in smoke circles rather.
Yeah.
It's a really unique way. And after some time of a few words, they have a meeting with Weber. And he asks him, "What are you trying to do? You're trying to teach them how to read and write?"
Yeah.
And he was just like, "These are grade school words. Why is this important?" And it was really cool. She writes on a board there that the end goal is to ask them, "What is your purpose on Earth?" And what she does there is she breaks down the grammar of each word and how to get there. I can't just ask them a sentence if they don't know what the sentence means. We have to teach them what these words are because it's a completely different language. And I thought it was really cool the way they did that.
It's really cool. And obviously Weber is like, he's got people breathing down his neck that he makes sure he tells us time and time again. He needs to have answers right away because obviously with the government and the military, their first instinct is this going to lead to a war? Is this going to lead to a fight? Like, why are they here? Are they here to hurt us? What's going on? So when she's going in there and she's teaching words like eat, like EAT, eat. He's like, why are you like, what does that have to do with anything? And like you said, she does this great job of breaking it down in a way that I understood it completely. And again, there are sometimes I can watch a movie where something will go right over my head and I'm listening to her and I'm like, wow, she's explaining this so well that I get it. And one of my favorite things about this lesson in particular was the definition of purpose. She goes, we don't even know if they understand what a question is because sometimes things operate off instinct alone. So it's not a why. It's not a rhyme or reason or a why they do it. They just instinctively do it. How often in real life situations where animals are born and instinctively they know exactly what to do. And as a human being, you're kind of like, wow, when we're born, we have to be taught so many different things, but when a turtle is born at the beach and they come out of the sand, their instinct is saying, get to the water. That's your instinct. You get to the water. There's no rhyme or reason. It's not like, hey, maybe go check this out over there. No, there's no rhyme or reason about it. It's just all instinct. And I like that she was like, we have to establish whether or not they even know what a why is, what a how is, what a what is. Because if they're operating solely on instinct, they don't even know what a question would be. They're like, well, what they never question their motives or anything they do because it's all instinct. And she explained it in such a way that even Weber was like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I had Forrest Whitaker. He's great. He's
I
just
love
like,
Forrest, man.
yeah. He does this thing with, he does with his eye, he does this move. He just goes, help me understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Forrest Whitaker. Yeah. He's great.
So on board, Louise and Ian make contact with two cephalopod-like 7-limbed aliens whom they call heptapods. Ian nicknames them Abbott and Costello. So that's the names that they're going to call the aliens here. So we move to our next scene here, which was in the trailer. And
this was crazy, dude.
Great moment.
This is very brave. I don't know if I'd be able to do this, but as you can see, she starts taking off her hazmat suit, and I was like, Louise, what are you doing?
Yeah. So Louise she's just getting frustrated because there's a disconnect, because all they're seeing is these people were in these suits and we're trying to teach you these words, but she wants to make it personal. That's what she's doing here. And she takes the suit off and everyone's freaking out. You keep hearing the military team say, abort, abort.
Yeah.
And you hear Weber, no, let it play out. Let it play out.
Yeah. And it shows again why she is who she is, as good as she is. Like this emotional, this bond, this connection that she's seeking is only going to help them. Because like you said, like they're looking at these human beings in hazmat suits and they're just kind of holding up words like human, this, that, whatever. Like there's no connection, but she decides, I'm gonna take off the hazmat suit. They're gonna see me. Like they're going to see me. And automatically now, me next to everyone else in the room, I stand out. I'm not in a hazmat suit. I'm out. So I'm letting you know there's a distinction between me and the other people here. And that's when she introduces herself as Louise. Like Louise. And then they start interacting back, and you're like, oh, we're making some headway here.
Yeah. So, in the midst of taking the suit off, she continually repeats, they need to see me. I said, everyone freaks out. They back up. She walks forward and puts her hand on the glass. And then they reciprocate by doing the same. You see this massive tentacle hit the glass next to her. And you hear those violins swell. And Amy Adams drops the line, now that's a proper introduction.
Yep.
Amy Adams sells this moment. She is so good. Let's be honest. She's probably acting to nothing. What do you say?
Yeah.
The tennis ball?
I wouldn't even know, to be honest with you, because the aliens are so massive in scale and there's no eyes. Like she doesn't need a center. There's no point. So she might literally just be having a bunch of white lights that are feeding her, so that way we have that reflection and glow of the screen, and her just kind of like with nothing, because she in the film she's looking at a room full of smoke and giant creatures, so her eyes can actually wander and do around, and there's no center where she has to be locked. So I don't even think she has that. I think she literally has just a bunch of lights looking at her. Well, and she's killing it, man.
Right. And it's a close-up shot too.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, she probably is looking at nothing when she's doing this, and Amy Adams is so good. So like you said, Louise and Ian introduce themselves. Louise, Ian, Louise, Ian. And then the beans do the same. And she says this great line. She says, they have names.
Yes. And that was so cool, because you see them each kind of give their names on the smoke circles that they use on the screen. And like right there again, what I like about Denis, he doesn't have to hold our hands or whatnot. And we know right away what's happening. Like we've got our introduction from Louise and Ian, and then all of a sudden they raise their tentacles and you see the rings each on their own side, and you're like, that's them. That's them.
Yeah. It's great. So just these shots of Amy Adams' face, they're amazing. She sells this moment like she just saw aliens for the first time in her life.
Yeah.
And she's got this great smile about her, and Amy Adams, the actor, and Denis just chose to tap into these strengths about her to sell this incredible moment.
Oh, yeah.
So Louise and Ian researched the complex written language of the heptapods, consisting of palindromic phrases written with circular symbols, and share the results with other nations. So palindrome it's a word that's the same forward as it is backwards, and that the way that they talk, it's like these circles, but a bunch of words within those circles. They start, breaking things down here. As Louise studies the language, she starts to have flashback-like visions of her daughter, and she's even dreaming of the beans as well. There's one shot where it's a borderline jump scare where she looks up and one of the heptapods rather, are like standing right in front of her, and then she wakes up.
It reminded me of Enemy with the spider at the end.
There we go.
Because you don't expect it. Because what I like about this whole conversation is that they start talking about the idea that if you start to learn another language and become real in depth with it, you start to think in a way of that narrative, of the way the people that use that language think and whatnot. So he was like, hey, are you having dreams too? Like, are you dreaming in their language? Which it kind of insinuated to me that maybe Ian is dreaming in their language, like, because he's been introduced to it, he's dreaming in their vocabulary, in the way they speak, which is this non-linear way of speak. And when she's talking, she's like, oh, I had some dreams, but I don't think that should, let you guys think that I'm not capable of doing my job. And when she turns to the side to communicate, it's not Ian, it's not Weber, it's this giant, and it's obviously you're only seeing like the tentacles, so you get like that spider feel again. Right. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I remember being in the theater with the sound design. I was like, oh geez almighty. Right. I was like, dude, he got me again.
Right. And you hear the whoa,
Yep. It's just that it's that Denis, man. It's that Denis. He knows what he's doing.
So when Louise is able to establish sufficient shared vocabulary to ask why the heptapods have come, they answer with a statement that could be translated as offer weapon.
Yes.
China interprets this as use weapon, prompting them to break off communications, and other nations follow. So Louise argues that the symbol interpreted as weapon can be more abstractly related to the concept of means or tool.
Yeah.
China's translation likely results from interacting with the heptapods using mahjong, a highly competitive game.
Yep.
So rogue soldiers plant a bomb in the Montana craft, and unaware, Louise and Ian re-enter the alien vessel, and the aliens give them a much more complex message. And while she's doing it, another wow moment happens here. She said, Abbott wants me to write on the barrier, the glass barrier. So she puts up her hand, and then she does it.
It's so
smoke
good.
comes out, but then it transfers to her hand, and then she talks. So it's almost like I'm talking back to you now, not in my language, but in your language.
It's such a good moment too, because the way that they write in their language, she said, imagine if you had a pencil in your left hand and right, and you could write the beginning of the sentence, the end of the sentence, and come together in the middle. And she said that's how they write, that's how they think, that's their language, is that it comes from both sides. And she even tells it, she's like, I can't do that. I can't do that from both sides. So I like that when she puts her one hand, the alien puts his tentacle and helps her and kind of kind of guides and finishes her thought process. And it was really, really, really cool to see that.
Just before the bomb explodes, one of the aliens ejects Ian and Louise from the vessel, knocking them unconscious. The aliens saved them. They knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And we will find out how they knew it was coming later on.
Yes. Yep.
So when Louise and Ian wake up, the heptapod craft has moved beyond reach, so it went up higher into the sky. And the U.S. military is preparing to evacuate in case of retaliation. not because of anything that they did. It was just, because of these people that snuck the bomb in there.
Yeah.
General Shang issues an ultimatum to the alien craft in China, demanding that it leave within 24 hours. Russia, Pakistan, and Sudan follow suit. Communications between the international research teams are terminated as worldwide panic starts setting in now. Now you see
Yep.
the news where people are rioting now. Now they're like,
Yeah.
oh no, weapon. What are the aliens going to do to us now? Is this the end of the world? I couldn't help but think that the way that the United States is approaching this versus these other countries here, it's like, hey, let's keep things cool, calm, and collective. And these other countries are like, no, we got to get them before they get us. Strike
Yeah.
first, you know?
Yeah. They you start to see the process kind of fall apart. You start to see the nations go dark. We're losing communication with nation by nation by nation. And Louise is so desperately trying to, like, no, like, we need to communicate. Like, this is how we do this. And when they see the word weapon, for obvious reasons, everybody freaks out. Now, Louise, again, being the linguist that she is like, yes, but that could be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. It could mean tool. It could mean this. How are they being taught? Like, she's bringing all these variables up. But as we know it, the people at the top, they don't want to wait to the last second. They don't want to, hypothesize or guess. They're like, no, we saw this. It has to be this. So when you start seeing the panic, I was like, yep, there it is. Like, it's all over the news. People are talking about weapon. You see the riots. You see this. You see that. And you're kind of just like, I was getting really worried at this point because, as you mentioned, some of these nations are like, you have 24 hours to leave. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to open fire on these ships. They're going to set more explosives. This is not going to go well. We already had rogue soldiers put in an explosive device here with Louise and Ian. And again, to go back, it was so awesome that the alien decided to save them, like just shove them out. And it kind of it was very interesting that the alien knew that was there and didn't mention anything, still tried to have this conversation, use weapon. Like, she's just like, I don't know what this is. And he's like, oh, you're out of time. And he throws him out. And I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, like, we're at the panic mode now. And I'm just like, as a viewer, I'm like, please, we have to get everybody on the same page. But everybody's just freaking out at this point.
Yeah. And it was really cool. It was like a sonic boom,
Yeah.
because it was behind the barrier, but the way the tentacle moved, it was able to get them out like that.
Oh, yeah.
With the way that the world is panicking now, particularly the nations that are ready to, start a war, I'm reminded of what your boy, the T-1000, said in Terminator 2. And I quote, "It's in your nature to destroy yourselves."
The T-800? The T-800?
Excuse me, not the
Yes. In your nature to destroy yourselves.
it's and it's a B-roll while you see these two kids fighting with each other with toy guns,
Yep.
So just a little Terminator.
Oh yeah, I love it
there. So Ian discovers that the symbol for time is present throughout the message, and that the writing occupies exactly 1/12 of the 3D space into which it projected. So Louise suggests that the full message is split between the 12 spacecrafts, and that the heptapods want all the nations to collaborate in order to decipher it. So we're only getting 1/12 of the message, but we have to work together as a planet to get the entire message here. We get a key flashback here. The daughter is asking Louise for a technical term where we make a deal and we both get something out of it. And in the midst of Louise suggesting to everybody that, that the aliens are forcing us, the world, to work together, Ian blurts out, non-zero sum game.
Yeah.
And Louise remembers this moment with her daughter where she says that exact term to her daughter. So things are starting to pick up here.
Yeah. She's been, as you mentioned earlier, she's been having visions of her daughter Hannah throughout the entire movie. Just random visions that pop up periodically. And then we have this one. And they're laying down some breadcrumbs for us right now.
All right, we got another
Oh yeah.
screenshot here. We got Louise just to show the scale of how big these things are compared to us. You know, it's they look like squids. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's the best way to describe it. You know, I looked it up online. Denis said he saw inspiration of like whales, octopi, squids, spiders, even.
Oh yeah,
So
dude, he loves him spiders,
he
man.
does love his spiders. So Louise goes alone to the Montana craft, which sends down a transport pod.
Yeah.
And we get this great visualization of her being transported up into the spaceship. Once again, Amy Adams selling this moment. And
Oh, dude.
I like the visual of her hair floating like she was
Yeah.
underwater with
Yeah.
like the gravity and such. It was a great visual. And you learn that Abbott has been mortally injured as a result of the explosion. And here in the screenshot, we have Louise, who is now face to face with Costello. And they are talking, and she is understanding the language as it's appearing in front of her. She's gotten so well at understanding them. She doesn't need the computers anymore.
No.
Just by seeing these smoke circles, I know what you're saying now.
This scene was so cool because it like Costello was understanding her as well. So like she would respond in English and it would respond like when she's like, "Where's Abbott?" And Costello says he is death process. And we're kind of like, "Oh man, like he died. Like that's crazy." And she's like, "I'm so sorry. We're sorry." And as Costello's talking to her, they're both talking to each other in their language.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so cool to show you how far that we've come, that the alien has come and Louise has come, that they've completely understand each other at this point. And it's really it shows you how far they've come in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, they're an advanced species, so them learning our language, not a big stretch. But Louise showing how smart of a linguist she is, that she learned an alien language, like, pretty cool moment, absolutely. But to her credit, you know, she aided in teaching them to be able to understand us. So good on Louise. So Costello explains that they have come to help humanity because in 3,000 years' time, they will need humanity's help in return. Louise rather, realizes that the quote-unquote weapon is their language.
Yes.
So learning the language alters humans' linear perception of time, allowing them to experience memories of future events. Banks's visions of her daughter are revealed to be premonitions, not flashbacks. Her daughter will not be born until sometime in the future. Right? So this is, oh my goodness, this is
blew my mind, bro.
Bombshell reveal. They're not flashbacks, but flash forwards. So by Louise learning the language, it caused her to start seeing the future. What?
Bro, listen, when we're watching the beginning of the movie, we're watching everything linear. Like we're like, okay, this is the beginning of the movie. And as the movie is progressing, we're learning about their language. And again, they keep bringing up the fact that their language is not linear. They brought up the fact, Ian is like, hey, when you start to learn a language, you start to operate and think in the way that those who deliver that language think and view things and everything else. Which is why he asks, are you dreaming in their language? What are you seeing in your dreams? And it's just like, oh, okay, so now she's gotten so good throughout the movie at their language that she perceives time the way that they do. And all these, I can't tell you, my jaw hit the floor when she's talking to the alien and she goes, who's this little girl you're showing me? And I went, what do you mean, who's this little girl? That's Hannah, that's your daughter. What do you mean? Like, why don't you know this? And then as they're communicating, you're like, oh my God, they're premonitions. This hasn't happened yet. Oh my God, she hasn't had a child yet. She talks about how she's not married. There's no pregnancy, no children. And I'm like, bro, my mind was blown. And I was like, oh, wow. So the weapon being language, and they're teaching them because in 3,000 years, they will need their aid. They will need their help. We don't know what for. They know what for. So they came down to introduce this language to humans so that way they could learn the language and perceive time the way they do, so that when they need that help, they'd be able to help them. And I was just like, Denis, what just happened? Like,
Yeah,
it's such a great reveal.
Ricardo, did you go to the theater to see this when it came out?
Yes,
I did
absolutely.
too. I remember the
Yes.
whole theater gasping.
Yeah, dude, you felt it.
Everyone was like, "What?" So
Yes.
yeah,
When she said, "Who's this little girl you're showing me?" I kind of was like, I kind of did one of these, like, I looked to the side to see if anybody else is like, wait, did anybody what? And then when you find out their premonitions, my mind was absolutely shattered, dude. And like the weapon being their language, so they can perceive time. And obviously, this will only pertain to the individuals who know the language.
right.
Like, so obviously, Louise knows the language. Anyone else that she teaches this language to, anyone who learns this language and gets well versed in studying this language, will be able to perceive time the way that they do. And I'm like, oh man, that's unbelievable.
So Louise returns to the camp as it is being evacuated and tells Ian that the aliens' language is the quote unquote tool that was meant by the word weapon. She has a premonition of a United Nations event celebrating global unity achieved by deciphering the Heptapods' language. At the event, General Shang of China thanks Louise rather, for persuading him to stop the attack when she called his private number and recited his wife's dying words. He then shows her a private number and whispers his wife's words into her ear. So this is the moment in the future where he showed her his number so that she could see it in the past, with her mind and call him and then tell him and then he could tell her the words so she can say them back to him.
Yep.
As well. It's happening at the same time. It's happening in the future and it's happening in the past at the same time.
Yep.
So in the present, Louise takes CIA agent Halpern's satellite phone from the table, and this is the moment where she calls Shang's private number to recite the words to him. This is so intense. We have guns drawn on Louise as this is happening, but she gets the words out to him just in time due to the premonition. She drops the phone. All right, I'm done.
Yep.
The Chinese announce that they are standing down and releasing their 12th of the message. The other countries follow suit, and the 12 spacecrafts depart. Now we have the full message.
Yep.
So, from what she has learned, Louise writes and publishes a book called The Universal Language, a guide to the heptapod language, which will eventually teach humanity to perceive time the same way as the heptapods. And then we start inching towards the ending here. So,
Oof.
yeah, get your
like throughout there's in these flashbacks throughout the movie, one thing that we have discovered is that the father of Hannah has left them. That's something that we see throughout the movie.
Yeah,
but we never see him. But throughout the movie, there's even a scene where Hannah's like, where she asks, like, or I can't remember if it's a question or a statement, but saying along the lines of like, "Dad doesn't like me anymore," and she's like, "Oh no, honey, like he loves you. He's gonna see you. Like he's gonna see you this weekend." And he's like, he left, and you're like, okay, so there's a divorce happening, there's a separation happening, with this child, and like there's this conversation where she's like, I guess maybe she's asking why, and Louise is like, I told your dad something. I told your dad something that I knew, and it made him very angry, and he couldn't understand why. And again, we still don't know who or what this means, but that's something that's been sprinkled throughout this movie. So when we get to the ending, it all comes together in this crazy reveal.
Yeah. So I chose this screenshot with them embracing for a reason. So during the evacuation, Ian expresses his love for Louise. They talk about their life choices and whether he would change them if he could see his life from beginning to end. Louise says, "If you could see your whole life from start to finish, would you change things?" And Ian drops the great line here, "Maybe I'd say what I feel more often." So Louise knows that she will agree to have a child with him, despite knowing their fate, that Hannah will die from an incurable disease, and that Ian will leave them both as a result of her revealing that she knew this all along. And we get this great line to end the movie. Ian says, "You know, I've had my head tilted up to the stars for as long as I can remember. You know what surprised me the most? It wasn't meeting them. It was meeting you."
Yeah.
And instead of going with a cliche kiss, Denis has them share a hug.
It was so beautiful.
I cried. I
dude,
cried in
you
the theater. I cry when I watch it at home because
Yep.
it's such a beautiful moment. And we
Mm-hmm.
zoom in on Amy Adams' face, because we're not trying to see Jeremy Renner. Sorry, Renner.
Yeah.
It's her,
Mm-hmm.
because he drops this phenomenal line and it hits her. She's like, "Oh, this is the moment where he reveals
Yeah.
his feelings for me. And this triggers our life together with the child that we're eventually going to have." So all these thoughts are going through
Yep.
her mind as they embrace. And then that's when they, within a few moments, the whole movie ends. What a
Yeah.
beautiful way to end the movie.
Oh my god, like you, man, I cried the first time I saw it. I cried recently when I rewatched it.
Oh yeah.
It's just one of those movies that hits, and Denis does such a great job editing wise, where when you see that beautiful embrace, you see the premonitions of them hugging in the future, them with Hannah, and you're just kind of like rocked, and it's all starting to click and come together that, she was aware of how all of this was going to end, but his answer kind of sealed the deal for her, because she asked, would you change anything? And he doesn't say he would. He said, maybe I would just say what I mean more, say what I feel more. And that was her kind of, that's kind of the confirmation she needed. It's like, yeah, then like we shouldn't try to change anything. We should make the best of what we have. And she mentions wanting to share every moment that she could with Hannah. So as a mother to be, and as a mother, she is well aware that Hannah will live to be 12 years old and get an incurable disease and die. And she still decides that is the route to take because she wants to appreciate every moment with her daughter. And then we realize that's why Ian leaves, because for Ian, he's like, wait, you knew this would happen. You knew that we would fall in love. You knew that we would have a child, but you knew that our child would become so ill and sick at 12 and pass away. And you knew all this and still went through with it. And it just kind of, it's that moral dilemma of like, if you knew, would you change anything? And it's such a beautiful thing that because she knows it, because quite often in real life, nobody wants to know the future, because like we would change everything. So we just try to appreciate everything in the moment, in the now. And it's such a beautiful thing that Louise as a character knows that something really traumatic and tragic is going to happen, but up until that point she's going to love and appreciate every moment that she can. And like you said, we don't get the Hollywood kiss at the end. We just get this really beautiful embrace. And the score, dude, forget about it. Like the score is swell, it hits you, and like I was just rocked, man. I was just like, I was like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I get it. I get Louise. I completely understand. And you want to have all those moments, as hard as it's going to be to say goodbye to Hannah. Like she has to have those moments with her. And I'm just like, good Lord, man. But what a movie, and what a ending, man. Just completely blew my mind, and then hit me in an emotional chord that I was not expecting at all.
So that's our movie. Let's give some initial thoughts upon our rewatch. And it hit me immediately. And sorry, I love DC, and there's been some great DC movies over the years. And I thought about Zack Snyder's Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan, because that's how he sees time, as nonlinear. So the concept of the movie was that the aliens, they're able to do that. They see time as nonlinear, and wanting to teach humans to do the same. So Louise becomes the first person on the planet to learn the alien language and be able to see time nonlinear as well. This is a superhuman power that this woman acquires because she's the smartest linguist on the planet. I have conquered so many different languages. I know language so well that now I'm learning this alien language that allows me to see time as non-linear.
Yeah.
What a concept, you know? And
Bro,
it's just like,
again.
and it's almost like, so do I see it in the future as it's happening? Can I influence the past? Can I not? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like, am I in the future? Am I seeing the past as
Mm-hmm.
the future is happening? You know, it's a very interesting concept, and it has to do with with the language, with the
Yeah.
circles, you know,
It's a
because
circle.
it's
Yeah.
time is a
Yeah.
circle, right?
Yeah. And they come from, and just like the signals, it forms from both sides. So it's this. So it's kind of like, so like you, I'm like, well, how do they perceive it? Are they in the past having premonitions of the future? Are they in the future having visions of the past? Or is it all happening at one time? Like it's a great conundrum. You just kind of sitting there thinking about it. But yeah, like it's pretty deep. And Louise, like you said, that is a superhuman ability, and she was the first person to do it. And with her power, decides that she's going to use it, to love someone that she was ultimately going to lose in the end.
Another thing I thought about was Denis made a movie about language, and he
Yeah.
made it interesting.
Yes,
You
dude.
know,
Like,
it was about language, and a lot of people critique this movie because it's a little slow because of the process to get to
mhm,
that big reveal, you know,
mhm.
because it's everyone just trying to decipher this language, and it's an alien invasion movie, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
It's an alien invasion movie, it's a drama, but at the end of the day, it's about language. That's the core thing, but he frames it in a way where, you know, this is where we get to.
yeah. And then at the end, there's this unity. Like, there's a unity with the
Yeah.
world because of this one language. And it's like when we all communicate together and understand one another, like we're united. Like there, like you said, like if you to pitch this movie and just said, I want to make a movie about language, no one's buying that. But he made this great sci-fi alien invasion, great drama, and at its core is about language and what it can do for us as a whole, to be together, was amazing to watch.
Yeah, because due to this event, years in the future, we achieve world peace
World peace.
because of it.
Yes, because again, we're all studying this one language, and again now, because anyone who is well versed in language will now perceive time this way, and things are like, again, not linear, and maybe you have a greater appreciation for things or whatnot, and however they want to take that route in the movie. But like, yeah, it's we come to world peace because of it, and it's like, again, another moment.
So let's take a look at the box office and the Oscars as well. So once again, Denis does it. You know, lower budget here, $47 million
Oh yeah,
budget,
insane.
47 million to make this gorgeous movie.
It looks incredible.
Yeah. And final box office, it was a success, 203.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, he made a movie about language,
Language.
and it was framed in the way that it was. It ended up being a blockbuster, just remarkable. Arrival made some noise at the Oscars. It only won a single Oscar, so it won the Oscar for best sound editing.
Okay.
It was nominated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes,
Ooh,
8
nice. Okay.
Oscars overall. So it was nominated for Best Film Editing, Best Production Design, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Sound Mixing, Best Cinematography, Best Director, and Best Picture. So good on Denis with all these nominations. Let me double check here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8. Yeah,
But
8
okay.
overall. Only one a single one, but the fact that it was just nominated for all these Oscars, incredible. You know, incredible
Oh yeah.
moment for science fiction. Obviously,
Oh,
you know, seeing
love it.
that, it's good stuff. And let's see here. As far as the Oscars go, Arrival was the only Best Picture nominee that didn't have any nominations for any of the acting categories, unfortunately. And we're going to
Mhm.
get to that later on. So let's take a look at some trivia here. The original name for the film was Story of Your Life, the same
Mhm.
as the source novella. And test audiences did not like that title, so it was changed to Arrival, and that was a good move by them. Straight to the point, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Director Denis Villeneuve and screenwriter Eric Heiserer created a fully functioning visual alien language. Heiserer, Villeneuve, and their teams managed to create a logogram Bible, which included over 100 different completely operative logograms, 71 of which are actually used in the movie. So Denis and his team there were able to create a language for this movie just for the
That's great.
heptapods. Yeah,
I
I
love
like
when they
that.
do that. I
Yeah.
love when people do that.
When Louise's daughter questions the reason for her name Hannah, Louise explains that her name is a palindrome in that it is spelled the same backwards as it is
Yup.
forwards. This reflects the theme of the film in that the story starts as it finishes, due to the story's events existing in a nonlinear timeline. So the opening few scenes of the film are simultaneously the beginning and also the end of the film, as in the case with the order of the letters that make up Hannah's name. So really cool
Yup.
choice by Denis there. Denis gave us a little bit of hint within these. Well, we found out they're flash forwards, but throughout the movie, we think they're
Yeah.
flashbacks. When Hannah holds up a drawing of mommy and daddy, one of them has a canary in a cage.
Oh
So he
yeah.
gives you a little hint there. And lastly, I'll leave off with this trivia here. Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner have both appeared in comic book films dealing with alien invasions. So in 2013, Man of Steel, Amy Adams was in that, Lois Lane. And then in 2012, Renner was in, of course, Marvel's The Avengers. So
Yeah.
they both came together for this movie. Let's give some love to our cast here. I'm going to close with Amy Adams because we're going to talk about her for a little bit. But obviously, we do have Amy Adams as Louise Banks. We'll come back to her. We have Jeremy Renner as Ian Donnelly. We have Forrest Whitaker as Colonel G.T. Weber. Michael Stahlbarg as Agent Halpern. And various actors that played Hannah. Jaden Malone as 6-year-old Hannah. Julia Scarlett Dan as 12-year-old Hannah. Abigail Panowski as 8-year-old Hannah. So we'll stop there. Let's talk about Amy Adams for a second here.
Oh yeah, dude.
So Amy Adams was Denis Villeneuve's first choice for Lois. Excuse me, Louise.
Lois came out.
She played
like,
Lois. Yeah, she played Lois.
Is here. Let's go.
Yeah. She agreed to the role within 24 hours of receiving the script, as she should have.
Yep.
Despite receiving nominations for Best Actress at the Golden Globes, BAFTAs, Screen Actors Guild, Critics' Choice Awards, and even the Saturn Awards, Amy Adams failed to receive an Academy Award nomination for Arrival. It's criminal.
Yeah.
Critics, audiences, major film groups, and publications considered this a major snub at the time. Now, we've talked about this many times on the channel, but we got to just remind everybody of how often or how many times Amy Adams has been nominated for an Oscar here. Best Supporting Actress, Junebug, Doubt, The Fighter, The Master, Best Actress for American Hustle, and back to Best Supporting Actress for Vice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 6. So at the time, this would have been her 6th nomination before going on to make Vice after the fact, but 7 total. Yeah. But to me, she absolutely deserved an Oscar nomination for this.
100%.
Amy Adams, it got 8 nominations, so it wasn't like the Academy didn't know what movie it was, This movie is held together by her and her emotion and the way that she sells all these moments. It's her movie. And without Amy Adams, this movie does not work.
Yeah, you can tell that she's the core of the movie. We're along with her from the very beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. And because of the emotional weight throughout the film and her ability to capture these amazing moments on screen with her eyes and her expressions, Amy Adams is top tier, man. She's amazing. And it is kind of wild to see her get all that recognition and then not get it at the Oscar, not getting an Oscar nomination. So I understand completely why a lot of people felt like that was a huge snub that year, and I believe that to be the case as well. But she carries this, man. The movie is so well written, it's so well executed, but Amy is the center of it all. And you feel everything she feels, whether we had the scenes with her and Hannah, whether it's her and Ian. Again, that hug at the end of the movie and her expression on her face, you couldn't help but feel it. The moments where she shows fear, excitement, the moments where she's actually interacting with these aliens one-on-one. She just does this wonderful job emoting, and she's terrific in this, man. Like she's a huge MVP of this movie, and it's no surprise that he was her first choice given what we saw from her in this movie. I understand completely why he wanted to go for Amy Adams, and I'm so grateful that she decided within 24 hours of getting this script saying, yep, I'm gonna do this. And I think we all won when she did, because man, she's absolutely fantastic in it.
Yeah, 2016 was a great year for Amy Adams. She does Batman v Superman, she does Arrival, and then she also does Nocturnal Animals, all within the same year. They were all released. Great performances from her, great movies as well. So the Best Actress award that year, a lot of heavy hitters here. We have Meryl Streep, Florence Foster Jenkins, Natalie Portman, and Jackie. She was awesome in that. Ruth Negga in Loving. We have Isabel Huppert in Elle, and then the winner that year. So, I mean, it was a deserving winner. It was Emma Stone in La La Land.
Oh yeah,
So, but no disrespect to those other actresses. Somebody would have had to get bumped, but sorry, we believe Amy Adams should have been nominated that year. All righty, so let's just start winding down here. Oh, by the way, before we did that, did you have anything else to add about Amy Adams, since we're talking about her? I mean,
dude, Amy is one of those that I feel like, I don't want to say it goes under the radar, because I feel like a lot of people do appreciate Amy Adams, but I feel like she could be appreciated more. Like Amy Adams is so talented, and like you said, just in 2016 had an amazing year.
Right.
And I feel like Amy Adams is one of those who's always going to deliver. She's one of those people that whether I enjoy a movie or I don't, I can always expect Amy Adams to give me a great performance. It doesn't matter what genre, it doesn't matter, who the director is. Like, we're always going to get something great from Amy Adams. She's one of my favorites, man. I absolutely adore her. I always look forward to watching her in something. And she is one of those actors that if I see them on a poster, I would be intrigued. We talk about directors. Like if I see Denis Villeneuve's name on a poster, I'm intrigued. Christopher Nolan's name on a poster, I'm intrigued. The same could be said for actors. Amy Adams is one of those actors that if I see Amy Adams attached to a project, I am immediately intrigued and interested. I'm like, oh, Amy Adams? Okay, let's check this out. I just think she's terrific, man. And I hope that she continues to get all the love that she's getting. And hey, man, like, we'll make up for this snub in a new project down the line. So whenever Amy's got something else coming, I'm like, yeah, let's get it this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you don't know who she is. She's got 6 Oscar nominations. It's almost feeling like she's a Leo. Leonardo DiCaprio before he eventually got it. It's just like, is this the year that she finally gets it when she finally gets nominated again? So, but yeah, shout out to Amy Adams, such an amazing actor, and to me, one of her best roles. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, easily. And she's got a great career, man. Like,
oh yeah,
she's got a fantastic career. But honestly, yes, I would argue that if you had to sit me down and say, Rick, pick top 5 performances from Amy Adams, even top 3, I'd be like, Arrival's in there without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. So we're gonna start closing with our closing thoughts, and this is a little bit different because Ricardo and I are in 2 different stages of our life here. So ignoring both of our life situations, would you do what Amy Adams did?
Bro,
if you found out? So I'm gonna go first because you have the harder question, because you're at a different stage in your life than I am. I'm not connected to anybody, so I can answer. So for me, people always say this: would you want to know your own future? And if you found out along the way something tragic was going to happen, would you make a different choice, or would you just go along the way? And Um, what Amy Adams' character Louise did was she chose to embrace the 12 years that she was going to have Hannah, even though knowing it was going to end. She chose to embrace that this life-altering, world-changing event where she bonded with this man that, you know what, there's no turning back. Like, him and I are connected for the rest of our lives now, no matter what. And of course we're going to develop feelings for each other. Of course we're going to continue forward with a relationship with one another because of how we bonded during this moment. And that's going to culminate with us having a child. And along the way, I have a choice of whether to tell him I knew this or not, you know, and she makes the right choice by telling him she knew, you know, and then he's upset because you knew and you still move forward with this. Why would you do that? You know? And it's such an incredible question. And depending on the tragedy, I don't know, Ricardo, like, it's such a big coin flip. Like, if it's the death of a loved one, I don't know if I could do it. You know,
That's what,
I don't know if I could do it. I mean, or what if I'm shown that I'm going to be this successful person in this particular career, but then I'm going to go bankrupt and lose all my money, you know, and lose all these things. Like, do I still do it just for the ride and just for the experience? You know, what if I find out that I'm going to have all the success, or I'm going to meet all these people, have these amazing friendships and relationships with these people, but for certain ones it's going to end badly. Would I still do it? You know, it's like Louise is such a brave character for not making any changes along the way. And it's not like well, we were saying see the future, but it's like it's linear now. So she's seeing the future as it's happening, and in the future she's seeing the past as it's happening as well. So it's such an incredible question. Please, Ricardo.
It's a really hard one, and I pondered it when I watched it again today because I haven't seen the movie in a few years, and I probably pondered it at the time as well, being where I am now, because this movie came out in 2016. So when I first saw it, I wasn't a father. You know what I mean? Right. I wasn't a dad, and you know, I've got 2 girls now. So as I watch it today, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, like I don't know what I would do given the circumstances, because ultimately, in the context of the film, the only reason she knows the future is because of this interaction where these beings needed help and she learned a language. And it's this idea of, because you know it doesn't necessarily mean we know it to alter it or change it. We just have this ability to see it. And as I'm watching it, I sat there and I legitimately thought about it today. Like, what would I do? And then my life plays through my eyes and I'm in my mind. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, if I knew that bad thing was going to happen and I just chose to avoid it, like, would I be where I am now? Would I have the relationships I have now? Like there have been things in our lives, and I'm sure everyone's lives, that they go, oh man, I wish I didn't do this thing, right? Like, I wish I didn't do this. I wish I'd have went left instead of right. And there are things in my young life that I probably wish I didn't do or do without and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't have what I have today.
Right.
And that those relationships that I have today, the connections that I have with people today probably wouldn't exist. And that's always one thing that I've like, oh, well, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything because I don't want to lose that. But we're talking about the life of a child and her knowing about an incurable disease, that is an unfathomable decision. I couldn't imagine. I do want to say that as a father, I probably, oh boy, oh, it's crazy. I probably would do the same thing she did, because and I don't know if that makes me selfish. I don't know if that's a selfish thing, because it's kind of like, this is going to go bad. Like, this is going to go bad. That this child is only going to live to 12 years old. Hannah's going to live to be 12, and she's going to have an incurable disease. And I'm sure some people, like Ian's character, possibly maybe even use the term selfish. It was like, hey, you did this for you, like, so you can have these memories with her, but she suffers, she endures this, she endures that. But again, time is non-linear, but it's not in that way for us to alter the future and to change it. We live it. Like, we live it. We have glimpses of it and we live it. And then with those glimpses, we decide what to do with it. and how we appreciate it. But yeah, as a dad, man, like I probably like Louise's character, I probably would still continue with it because there's so many. I want those bonds. I want that love. I want that connection. I wanna hear their voice. I want to hear their laugh. I want to have that, you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make this count. I'm gonna make sure that I do everything in my power to give them everything that they deserve and this and that. So yeah, it's an emotional question. And I'm sure if you ask on a different day, it might flip flop. It might be like, I don't want to do that to them. You know what I mean? But
as a child-free person, I can't fathom that decision
yeah,
because I could, and these are all different pains, obviously, the pain of
yeah,
losing a friend or a loved one, the pain of losing a parent, the pain of losing a significant other, and then there's the pain of losing a child. You
yeah,
know, we can all fathom the pain of losing all these different things, but only parents can understand what it would be like, to lose a child. Well, the ones that have gone through it, you
yeah.
know?
So for me, what I'm thinking is if Louise as a character has these visions of Hannah. She's having these visions, these love. She's already making connection. So if she decides to change it, she's still losing Hannah.
Right.
She still loses her. So
Right.
she's going to lose her one way or another. It's either she's either going to cease to exist, and those memories that I have of her are going to slowly fade away because I'm altering it. She's losing Hannah regardless, no matter what her choice is. So it's you either lose it by sacrificing everything, or you can make the best of what you have. And that's why I'm like, oh man, like I would hate that type of decision where I'm like, oh, I'm going to change it. I'm going to avoid it. But then every day I'm going to ache for it. I'm like, well, now I don't have it anymore. Now I don't have those amazing moments. I don't have those memories. I don't have those laughs. I don't have those hugs. I don't have them. So I'm losing it no matter what. So I'd rather have it as long as I can have it before losing it because I'm going to lose it
Right.
regardless. So
Right.
like Louise is going
Because
to lose it regardless.
we see that during that montage where Ian asks her, "Do you want to have a kid?"
Yeah.
So even then, she still has a chance to be
She has a
like,
chance.
"I,
Yep.
I don't think
Yep.
this is a good idea," and then she would be able to tell him.
Yeah.
But she doesn't tell him. She
And
still moves.
she moves forward and he answers that question. She goes, if you had an opportunity to change your future, if you knew it, would you? And he goes, I think I would just say what I mean, what I feel more. And
Right.
that was it. Like that was the click. Like she was like, okay, like then yep, we're gonna go through this and we're gonna make every second count. And it is oh man, what a brutal decision though. Because like
Correct. Correct.
it's a brutal decision.
We're gonna lose anyway. It's a
Yeah.
lose.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Right.
It's a lose-lose. For Ian, maybe not so much because Ian doesn't seem to have that. He's not seeing it the way she sees it yet. She's already there. She sees the future vision. She sees Hannah. She knows Hannah. She already has a relationship with Hannah. She is Dr. Manhattan. It's not, I'm going to have a relationship with Hannah. She's like, no, I have Hannah. Even though Hannah's not born, and she goes, I have Hannah. Hannah is my daughter. Like, that's why this time thing is such an interesting thing because it's all happening what feels like at the same time because it's not linear. So again, I think for Louise, I understand why she made that decision because she's going to lose Hannah one way or another. It's either we're going to delete it before it happens and every memory, every vision that I'm having of her will cease to exist and they will stop, or I can allow them to happen and I can make these memories count and share that love. And even though she knew Ian would leave because of it and everything, she was like, nope, we're gonna cherish these 12 years. We're gonna have this, and ultimately we're gonna lose it. But it's a brutal decision, man. Like, oh Lord.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of Denis' filmography here, and there are on some days where if you ask me about what my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie is, some days I
Mhm.
might say Arrival because
Oh
of
yeah.
how emotional it is.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's a hard choice to make because let's just look at Nolan. He's got like such an amazing filmography. Anyone could pick like 1, 2, 3, 4 different movies, and each person could justify why it's their favorite Nolan movie because they're
Yeah.
all amazing. And that's the same thing with Denis. It's like if somebody said Sakara was their favorite, I can see why you would say
I
that.
could totally understand it.
If somebody said, Prisoners, I could see that. And later on, once we take a look at Blade Runner and the Dune movies,
Oh yeah.
I could see why you would say that. So for me, And by the way, I don't have an official Denis favorite, not yet anyway. But on some days when you ask me, because of just how emotional this movie is and such, it's such a great movie. I love it. I love Arrival.
I think it's probably his most emotional movie. I think if you think about it from his American filmography, I think it's his most emotional movie to date.
You're right.
It hits the hardest, and yeah, it stays with you, man. Like I remember the first time I saw it, and I was rocked. And the fact that I can watch it this many years later and still be hit, because like every once in a while you'll see a movie a few times and it loses the emotional sting. Like you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is really sad and tragic, but the emotional sting is kind of gone because you're prepped for it. And Arrival is one of those movies where it doesn't matter how many times I've seen it, like every time it happens, because he does that thing where he leaves you questioning yourself as a human being, as a person. Like, what would you do in a situation? And you can't help but stir up emotions and feelings when you think about that type of stuff. So yeah, dude, for anyone to claim this is their favorite Denis Villeneuve film, like completely understand.
Yeah. All righty. Folks, that was the Panel Bros official breakdown for Arrival. If you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube at the Panel Bros, we'd appreciate it. All those likes, share, and subscribes, they help our reach. If you could also leave a comment below letting us know how you felt about our breakdown of Arrival and how you felt about Arrival, please let us know in the comments below. We are still pushing forward with our Denis Villeneuve filmography. Next up is one of Ricardo's favorites.
Yeah, baby, I'm hyped.
It's Blade Runner 2049. So
yeah,
we're going to do that breakdown next. And then after that, the Dune movies. So please stay tuned. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying thank you for coming to the panel.